Hey, Joyful Journeyer, Anita Adams here, your host. And today I'm so excited to introduce you to a wonderful human being who I believe through some divine guidance brought us together. There is a purpose for this woman's presence in my life. Maybe that purpose is to introduce her to you and the great work she is doing in this world to help more people connect with their true higher selves. Or maybe the purpose is still yet to be discovered. Maybe there are many reasons why we have come together. I am deeply curious and cannot help but to feel having her as a guest on the Joyful Journey podcast is just the beginning of more magic that is yet to come. And how exciting, how fun, how wonderful is it to be simply curious and explore. Curiosity is such a wonderful trait that I believe plays a key role in finding your truth, your higher self, and tapping into that inner wisdom. We're going to talk a lot about that today. So let me tell you a little bit more about this remarkable woman, Laurie Seymour. Laurie is a quantum connection mentor, a two-time #1 best-selling author, a certified master trainer, the founder and CEO of the Baca Institute, and host of the Wisdom Talk Radio podcast. Laurie helps conscious business owners and visionary leaders who know that strategy connected with deep inner guidance provides the means to abundant success. Her cutting edge proprietary quantum connection process activates and amplifies a higher vibration that dissolves fear and self-doubt, so her clients create what they want in every aspect of life. Laurie, again, I am so pleased to have you here. Welcome, my friend. Welcome.
Thank you, Anita. I was so looking forward to this because I had that same feeling when we were brought together. And it was just like, who is this woman? And what is this about? And I do feel like it's still unfolding and probably will unfold for a while, because there's multiple things that emerge out of, those quote unquote accidental meetings.
Yeah, I'm so glad you feel the same way, and it's just fun. I was sharing recently it was you and I were talking actually about this whole coming together of going to a conference. So Laurie and we had actually met at the evolutionary, or through the Evolutionary Business Council. I think at least a year ago, just met online. We were both on an online thing. And I remember thinking, she's a really cool lady. And then we both ended up at this conference in Santa Fe in January. And we spent hours, you and I, together, just sitting up until the wee hours of the morning chatting. And I remember thinking that I needed to be at that conference. I didn't know why I needed to be there, but I needed to be there. And when I met you, I realized that, or I had a strong feeling that a big part of my reason for being there was because you needed to be in my life, that we needed to come together for something. And that was it was such a strong feeling and a beautiful connection with, I would consider a soul sister. We're on very similar journeys. And I look up to you, the work that you've done. I feel like you're miles and miles and miles ahead of me in so many ways. And I love the work that you've done, and you just open your heart to share so much. And I'm just like, wow, I'm so grateful for you, and just excited to deepen that connection. So now I feel like I'm gushing. I've got a girl crush.
Well, you know what? I didn't say this to you before, but I think I said it to someone else. I said, I met this woman and I feel like I fell in love with her.
Awesome. Oh, it's a mutual girl crush. I love it. Oh, now that we got that out of
Yeah,
the way.
really. But everybody gets to be part of this now.
Yeah.
We're inviting them in to whatever we're going to create together.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, yeah. Well, there's lots of things I want to talk about. Lots of things I want to talk about. You're just doing such interesting work. And I want to start, perhaps it's really basic, but I think it's a good place to start. Can you tell us what is quantum connection?
Oh gosh, you want to know exactly with those particles that are so ephemeral and
Yeah, well, I don't really fully understand it, like I got a general concept of it, but I need
Mhm.
more. I need more.
Sure, sure. No, that makes sense to me. And people still may be, and you may still be left with, I'm still not sure, but let's take a shot at this. Um, we know that we live in a quantum world, and that literally, and I really mean literally, everything is energy. Everything is made up of energy. And one of the things that the quantum physicists have been able to demonstrate is that we, as in our human being expression, are part of this quantum universe, that we're not separate from it. We are of it, and it is of us. And when I think about connecting with that which lies beyond our linear trained brains, I think about connecting with that field of infinite possibility, which is what we live in. So much has not been made manifest. So much has not, been brought into the physical. We're physical, but how do we tap into that which is there in potential? Yeah, and really, just as a little kind of side note, that's what's driven me my whole life, is that feeling of there's more. There's so much more that I can't tap into. I don't know. And originally I felt that as something lacking in me,
Mm.
but came to the place of realizing, oh, that's the nature of the universe. And so I went into the field of psychology and trained in the field of psychology and was a psychotherapist for many years, because it felt like at that time what was the path to discovering that moreness.
Hmm.
And that took me into the edges of that, and still wanting to know more, still feeling like there's still something I don't understand, there's still something I don't know really about myself, and hence human nature. But that quantum field idea is, how do we connect with that field of potential, that field of possibility? And we can talk about it in what sound like two completely different ways. One being the spiritual, as higher self, as the divine, as presence. I generally think of it and speak about it as energy. Sort of like, what do the energies want me to do?
Hmm.
How am I to connect with, what am I to do next? And then connecting with that divine presence, the other side, connecting with that field of potential. And that each of us have our own way of doing that. It's not this is how you need to do it. But unless and until we start to open to what that is, and open to the reality that we're living in this energetic universe, and we can connect with it, we can absolutely align with it in how we live in each moment of life.
Hmm. Beautiful. So that idea of everything being connected, is that where the concept of unity consciousness comes from? That is that everything is one, or is that a different concept altogether?
I think it's related. I think it's a different way, perhaps, of speaking about it. But I always think of the one and the many, meaning we, each of us, in physical form, we have a different expression in life.
Mm-hmm.
We're each unique. We are each special, and we spend years and so much effort in trying to fix what we think is wrong with that uniqueness. And if we don't work to fix it, if we work to uncover it, to reveal it, to remember it, then we start to tap into that way in which we are part of that oneness and recognize that aspect of us that is connected to everything else. And so I may have an idea about something that seems brilliant and, earth shattering, or at least earth shaking. And maybe somebody on the other side of the world has the same idea, because we're each tapping into that field of potential.
Oh.
And when I could say, well, that's been done. Oh, they did it and they beat me to it. But when we take that spark of the divine, of presence, of that field of potential into ourselves and through our own unique expression, it becomes ours to do. It becomes ours to express, and in our own unique way. And that's that personality and presence coming together.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's our work to do in the world, in a way. I mean, in a foundational kind of way. It's, what is our original blueprint, and how do we tap into that in our own very special way?
Mhm.
And that without you, without me, without the next person, we wouldn't have all the different pieces of what's needed in the world.
It's really it's interesting. I love that you are presencing this notion or this idea, like you said, I don't know your exact words now, that uniqueness, like we bring our own unique flavor to the things that we are feeling called to do, and that there's that spark inside of us. And I know from my own personal experience and from dealing with and working with some clients that often we feel like, well, who am I to do that? Or that's already been done. What could I possibly bring that's new and fresh to the table? And what I'm hearing you say is that sure, there may be a lot of the same concepts that people are bringing into the world, but you're also bringing your own unique blueprint to it and creating something that might be seen and experienced in a different way from other people. Am I hearing you
Absolutely,
correctly,
yes.
or am I
Oh,
just
you've
hearing
got
what I'm wanting to hear? Because
it. No, I think you've said it in such a beautiful way. Yes, exactly that.
yeah, it's
Because
interesting.
it's limitless.
Mm,
It being the universe and
yeah.
it being your own expression.
Yeah.
So what's important to me, and so what so much of my work is about teaching people how to first connect with that essence.
Is that the
And
spark that you mentioned earlier? Is that just another word for
yes, we
that?
could say that. Yeah. And maybe that's already, happened. And then the people get stuck in the, well, how do I do that? What do I do? What's the practicality of that? And how do I make that real?
Mhm.
And there's so many ideas coming into me right now as I'm speaking. So I hope I'm not jumping, too much around the
Not
world.
at all.
So in order to do that, we need to really keep that connection alive, that connection with that original spark, and that original excitation of the spark, that activation of that spark. And that's part of my work in energy, is to activate that blueprint, so that people start to learn how to stay aligned with it, stay connected with it.
Mm.
Not just, I've got the idea, and then suddenly I've got to go look outside for all of the ways I have to do that. But if I keep tuning back in, and that's why I love the work I do with the inspiration into action. And it's an intensive program, but it's a weekend where people get to have that energetic experience of doing that, of remaining in alignment with, and knowing how to get back to, what do
Mhm.
I need to do next? Because the idea feels like, okay, we can let ideas be inspirational, but how about strategy? How
Yeah.
about,
How do I
you know,
activate? Yeah.
how do you not just activate it, but how do I use it? How do I know, how do I use it to know who I need to connect with?
Mm,
And
mm,
what conferences I need to go to or not?
mm.
And
Interesting.
who do I need to bring onto my team? And what are my brand colors? And
How do
And
you discern between that, the inner wisdom, and then just ideas that might not be connected to inner wisdom?
well, it's a great and crucial question, really, because we have never been taught this. I remember in the work that we were doing early on, before the Baca Institute was even around, but with my teacher, and we were looking at how the activation of these kinds of energy systems in the body would translate into, what we do in the world, and how we know when it's that or when it's just, the noise. So it's learning how to um, almost get between the noise, because
Mm.
there's so much noise in the world. And I remember in my days as a solutions engineer learning about noise floor and how cell phones worked, and how in order for a signal to get through, we have to have that the noise floor get lowered, and have the so the signal can be cleaner. So part of it is getting quieter and within, and taking the time to say, okay, what is it that is true here? What is it that is real here? And being curious, you talked about that in the beginning. um, Being open, available to receive that, and seeing how it feels in the physical body.
Yeah.
Is there a sense of peace with it? Is there a sense of flow? Is there um, agitation? Is there a feeling of being, pushed? Um, is there judgment? Because when there's judgment with something, and that can even look like, quote unquote, good judgment, like getting really excited about something. And that's the emotional. So this goes beyond the emotion, because we have to get quiet enough to go beyond that too. It's not like emotion isn't important. It's more that we need to discern the positive side of truth,
Mm.
which is beyond the emotion.
Right. What's fueling the emotion?
Mm.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you. I think that's such an important part of the equation, and taking that time to find the quietness, the stillness, to be able
Mhm.
to listen and discern between the emotions and
Mhm.
the feelings that are coming up. Thank you for explaining that. I know you have a really cool quiz on your website, which I took, and I thought it was really informative, really cool. And it's designed to help people identify their quantum connection style. So can you walk us through that a little bit? Like, what are the different quantum connection styles, and how do we use that information to help us?
Right. Yeah, because if it's just curiosity, that just goes so far.
Yes. Curiosity is the
So
beginning. You got to go deeper.
right, exactly. So there are four in my system, if you will. There are four styles. There's the bridge builder, there's the maker, there's the creative dreamer, and there's the pioneer. I might guess which one you are, but I won't go there now.
Ooh, I'm curious if you guess right.
And each of them have what I would call both a challenge or a growing edge, and they also have a mastery key. In other words, this is your superpower. This is where why it's almost like why you've come into the world, and how you feel most drawn or comfortable to create, really, to create what you're here to create. So I think, because I think of creativity as being so far beyond, can you paint or draw or sing or, whatever. It's how we live life.
I like that.
And so how do you live life? How do you create in your life? And I've worked with so many people who are running counter to what their style is because of how they've been raised, how they've been trained, what their family expected of them. And they're unhappy, and life isn't working. Life is not working well. So for me in my own life, for example, I academics was the thing.
Hmm.
And in my family, I was brought up Jewish. There's a big focus on education in general, and there was certainly that focus on education in my family. And so, that's what I was good at. Um, that's what I that's where I got my first, kind of accolades and awards and those kinds of things. And yet there was so much underneath that I didn't get acknowledged about.
Hmm.
And I was so drawn to different things that I couldn't even let myself play in. Somehow I found my way to psychology, which was that sense of how do I understand all of this? How do I connect with others? And to know that what really lit me up and what lights me up is looking for what those connections are, not wanting to be better than, but looking for, how do I build the bridge from this place to that place, from this person to that? I'm so excited or interested in this field of study. I'd mentioned to you when we started, and I don't think we'll get into it, but I'm starting to look at AI and how that relates to inner guidance, how we need to think about inner guidance in relationship to the power that we're wanting to give away to AI to create.
That could be an
And
episode in and of itself.
yeah, because if you're allowing this artificial intelligence to dictate or to create, well, I won't say dictate, but to create, we're missing this whole
Right.
field of potential.
And if that's really what our life is about, it's about being creators, being creative, then
Right.
what are we sacrificing? How much are we sacrificing of ourselves?
And in a way, we're sacrificing, I think, everything,
Good
because
point.
we are creators. We are not the victims.
Mm.
We are the creators.
Hmm. And I do like looking at
Mhm.
ourselves as the creators of our life,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
this idea of tapping into the infinite possibilities, because you can pop in and pull things together that you
Mhm.
want to create for yourself. So interesting.
Yeah.
I am a bridge builder. I did, according to is that what you would have
Just trying
guessed?
to imagine that. Yes.
Okay. And I'm not surprised to hear that you're a bridge builder, given my new understanding of these different connection styles. Can you, perhaps using that as the style of example, can you give an example of a challenge bridge builders might face?
Well, one thing that comes to mind for me, and has been something for me, is, where do I put that energy, and where do I put that energy and that in desire to connect and that desire to build bridges? Where do I put that in the bigger picture of my life? How do I um, how do I tap into that in a way that feels like like it is part of that inner guidance, of my own inner guidance system? How do I um, have the discernment, because we talked about that, to see, not just going from excitement, but going from that deeper place of what's really part of my own purpose, what's
Mm,
part of my next step, because purpose is an ever evolving thing, and it's never kind of one and done. And so there's a lot to uncover and discover in that to make me an even better or more effective bridge builder.
So is the issue that bridge builders want to get to the other side really quick, so to speak, and that they're not taking the time to really look at the individual steps to get there? Is that what I'm hearing, or am I mishearing?
It can be that, but it can be more that there's some bridge builders don't realize that they're a bridge builder,
Oh,
and they're there in their own silo, and yet where their heart wants to be
I see.
is in making those connections, and they've denied that. They've
Hmm,
denied that because our world is focused on becoming an expert,
right.
and
So
what's
true.
your expertise and what's your degree,
Yeah.
and how do you where's your star power. And yet for the bridge builder, the star power comes in the how do I bring other people into this
Yeah.
and create something new.
That's I find that really interesting and very relatable. Like I've never considered myself in that language before, but I've been that person, and that some of the challenges I've had is that others don't want to collaborate. And I'm always surprised that people don't, because I really strongly believe we're stronger together. We're
Yeah,
stronger together, and that there's so much room in the world for us to be doing the same things and supporting each other. But that just doesn't seem to be the general
right.
view of a lot of people, and I'm hoping to change that. And maybe this kind of
Well,
conversation is an important one to have, because we are stronger together.
right. And maybe it's for you to find the other bridge builders. But let me contrast it, let's say, with the pioneer, because I have a lot of that pioneer energy in me too. I'm in Aries. I like to be at the front of the pack, but it gets lonely there.
Hmm.
And the pioneer, while they're most comfortable with running with their idea because they've got a great idea and they're forging the path. But then how do you bring people along? How do you communicate your idea? How do you acknowledge others? So it's like the pioneer would really benefit from bringing a bridge builder onto their team, someone that can help bring some others along. They would also benefit from learning how to develop that aspect of themselves. So it's not like we are typecast or stuck in a particular way. It's more that, here are some places that, hey, if you developed this, there'd be so much more that you could accomplish.
Hmm.
You wouldn't just be out there at the head of the pack alone and saying, how come there's nobody behind me?
Yeah.
Because you would have worked on that aspect of communicating your idea and lighting other people up, acknowledging others to be part of that.
Yeah. Very neat. Good. And you use this quiz as a sort of foundation to get started with people, to identify their style, and then how to work with them and coach them so that they
Mm-hmm.
can make that, like you said, their superpower, and then find other potentially partners or individuals to pull in on their team if they're business leaders or whatnot. Is that I got that correct? Okay, good.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we include that link in the show notes for our guests, to go and check that out. It's really interesting, and you do send out some emails, follow up with more information and an opportunity for people to connect with you for some more guidance on that. So that's really cool. I want to talk about inner guidance a little bit more. And is that for you? Is that the same as intuition?
Would it be okay if I say it's not?
It is okay. I wanted anything's okay. Anything goes. And this is, yeah. What is your view
It's
on this?
why I say that is because intuition is important. I'm not denigrating anything here. It's more that what I have come to realize is that inner guidance is like a refinement of your intuition.
Oh,
Intuition is something that, comes in unbidden. It's not necessarily something that we can count on or can use reliably and relatably and sustainably. Um, People want to know, well, how can I be more intuitive? The first step of all of that is, if you're not balanced, if you're not feeling balanced, you're going to bring something in. You're going to have an intuitive hit. You're going to bring in some what seems like guidance. But because you're imbalanced in that moment, that's what you're going to bring in. And
and then
I've
you can
been
be
around a lot
misguided.
of, well, you'll get what you want to hear.
Ah, that's interesting. Okay, so walk us through that, finding that balance then, so you're in the right place to access inner guidance. You touched on it, I suppose, earlier by saying that the quieting of
Yeah.
being.
There's so much to it. I mean, I actually developed a whole course called the Inner Guidance Mastery Blueprint because I found that people were missing some of the basics.
Mm,
Some of the, it's easy to say, get quiet,
right,
right?
it is. And what does that really mean?
What
And I
does
mean,
that really mean? And what does it feel like?
what does it feel
What does
like?
it feel like? How do we know when we're in that place where we're feeling that flow? And when we're feeling that, and this is something you and I have talked about, that self-love,
Mhm,
not the emotional love, but that expanded place of where you're tapping into God's love for you.
mhm,
That the universal presence and that love. So when when you allow yourself to get quiet enough that it's like you feel your own balance. People know, at least they start to know, and that's part of what happens in the classes in that course is people start to be able to identify that more readily. And then it's teaching people how to connect with that and how to develop that, how to refine that. I mean, I work with that energetically so that people can know what that feeling is, it feels like. And then you've got a touchstone, you've got a touch point.
mhm.
And yet that intuition, which is that sometimes on and sometimes off. And I'm about going directly to source. That's really, I don't want to go to any in between dimensions or levels. I want to go directly to source and get my guidance, so to speak.
Mhm.
And so that's for me part of the difference of intuition and inner guidance is the developing inner guidance really as a reliable source, as a
Mhm.
reliable and sustaining connection with your own inner wisdom and your inspiration.
Beautiful. I've never heard it articulated so well. Thank you for that. It's just very clear distinction between inner wisdom and instinct, and it's very. I find that very personally very helpful.
Mhm.
You touched on this the space, mental emotional space that you're in when you access that inner guidance, and you say it comes from a place of love, of a sort of a deeper love, not just I love my husband. I love
Mhm.
that flower. It's a deeper love. Can you talk a little bit about that too? Because I think this is super crucial, and how we access that sense of deep love.
Ooh, I can tell you a story about
Please, I
that
love
for me.
stories.
Because truly that's what was missing for me my whole life. And what I say, I don't say that from the outside, I say that from the inside of feeling like there's something missing. There's this hole and don't, everybody else has got it and I don't, is what it felt like. Um, and I remember the moment in being, actually it was in being in energy, in receiving a particular initiation. I don't know what else to call it. That's really what it was with someone. And it doesn't need, I want to say right off, it doesn't need to be in that kind of setting. That's what it was for me. But what I remember is that feeling of suddenly, it's like something exploded within me. And I felt such love and so filled up in a way that, because I had really felt this emptiness.
Mm.
And it was like in that moment, I knew the truth. And I want to say capital T, truth.
Mm.
I don't want to backpedal from that. It was the truth. It was the truth of me. It was the truth about life. It was the truth about what we're here for and what's possible.
Mm.
And that didn't just like, it wasn't ephemeral. It may have faded sometimes. It may fade sometimes, but it's always, what I found is after that experience is it was always there as a touchstone. It was always there as if doubt came in, and doubt came in so much less, I must say. I mean, it was like doubt just started. I didn't realize it for a long time. That self-doubt, which was so strong in me, just wasn't there.
Beautiful.
And if it is there, I can feel the difference in my body between what it felt like to feel that love and what it feels like to be in self-doubt. And that self-doubt, which is judgment,
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't feel good.
No.
It just is like,
Yeah.
ugh. And
Yeah.
it's that difference between and where things are flowing, where it just feels true.
Yeah, feels true. That's very similar to my story. For me, it was time in nature, and that's why I've become such an advocate to encourage people to step out into nature and make it a daily practice, even just 5 minutes sitting on your deck, getting surrounded by that natural environment. As you said, your process is not the only way to do that, as is being in nature is not the only way to help me access that sense of deep love for what is, deep love for what is. And I think it's just a beautiful way to do that.
Yeah, because you're opening up to that field. It's
Yeah,
hard to be in nature, to be present in nature,
exactly.
and not to have that,
Yeah.
oh my God, kind of feeling.
Yeah. And you know what? When we moved to Portugal, and away from that beautiful natural environment, I went through a little bit of a like, oh my gosh, like I could feel like I was edgy more. I was the
Mm,
self-doubt, the uncertainty was creeping in, and I realized, oh my gosh, Anita, I'm not making time for myself to just connect with my natural environment. And so I went with the intention to, and you can find natural environments in big cities. Like I used to live in on an island where it was my back door, but you have
mhm.
that natural environment, right? It's there. It's on your deck. You just got to make time for it. And for me,
Well,
that
say
again, that
more about that, because I need that. I need to hear about that because I
about
live
get
in a big city
yeah. Well, okay.
and I can sit on my deck and I can look out at a beautiful view, but there's something that feels a little different. I think there's something more that you might can be able to say about that.
Okay, sure. And thank you for asking. I love that you're putting on the host hat now.
No, I'm putting on my curiosity hat.
Oh, your curiosity hat. I love it. Okay, thank you for asking. Yeah, I do. I have to work a little harder in the city to make that connection. And for
Mhm,
me, it's just being very intentional about feeling and using all of my senses. So if it
mhm,
is just literally going out onto the deck or, into the courtyard or whatever, I'll just take a pause, a moment to just really deep breathe. It's a meditative practice, I suppose.
mhm.
A few deep breaths, and then try to feel everything. Like, what do I see? What kind of things can I pick up and notice with my eyes? What am I noticing with my ears? What am I noticing through my sense of smell? What can I put my hands on and touch? And all these little things help to really ground me in the here and now. And I'm letting go of my worries about the future and the stories of the past. And in so doing, I'm able to feel that expansion happen in my heart and accept and love what is. And I often, not often, I always actually take it one step further, and I do a little gratitude practice at that point. After I've gotten grounded in the here and now, I'll just say a few things that I'm grateful for, and I feel that additional expansion happen. And there's that real sense of love for myself and for what is. And then I feel what you're talking about that's when you can have the discernment, and where you tap into that inner wisdom. So what is your process for deepening that connection to your inner guidance?
Wow, this has been, well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge what you just shared, because that was big and important. And it's something that, as you describe it, I can feel how that works, because you are being in the moment. You're allowing yourself to be in the moment and anchored within that in your body. Yeah. So for me, it's all of that. And it's been a 30 some year process of working with this. And I have some energetic ways of working with myself, of working with certain energetic processes. I was initiated as the Tereya Grand Master, this lineage that came from my teacher, and that is a meditation and a hands-on way of working with energy. And it's something that I am with every single day. And so my own ability and willingness, really, it's my willingness to take time, just like what you said, to get quiet inside. And for me, it starts with the breath. And so that in breath, when I take a conscious breath, what I'm doing is receiving. And I'm receiving what I think of as the breath of God. And it really is the breath of God, because think of the original, God breathing into Adam. That was the breath of life. And energetically, and from a quantum physics perspective, what we're doing is we're breathing in those particles from the field of potentiality. So the breath has intelligence. The breath is intelligence. The breath knows exactly what to do in your physical body. I don't need that PhD in biochemistry to tell you, now you need to go here, and then you need to mix with this gas, and then you need to do that. I wouldn't have time for anything else. And I don't have a PhD in biochemistry. But that understanding, it allows me to truly move into that place of receiving. And receiving is so important in that Thanksgiving, because that out breath is not just, we think about the out breath as letting go, but we are giving to the natural world. We are giving to all those green things that rely on our carbon dioxide, that exhalation. So there's this beautiful dance that is taking place of giving and receiving. And that for me is the essence of Thanksgiving. And in that, I get to connect with that deeper or quieter or more subtle information, really information from that quantum field, directly from source, and to receive that in my body. And I receive it as energy. It comes in as energy. Then I've got to learn how to decode it. And that's a whole other, process. Part of the decoding is asking the questions from that place where there's so much love and so much thanksgiving for what is coming forward, for what you've received. And then it's, what am I needing to know about this day? What is new? What is changing? What is my next step today? What is my purpose for today? Or what is the purpose? What is today about? So that I start to connect with my own personal journey, all of the, the energy that's coming onto the planet, because that we're constantly being bombarded by different energies and solar radiation and what have you. And, I mean, that's a whole other conversation we probably don't need to get into. But all of that is impacting us. And when we realize that we're here to be that co-creator with the universe, then, well, for me, that's a big thing. And so, okay, I want to do that, and show me how. And the showing me how is part of the asking of those questions, of decoding what I've received. I could just say in meditation, or I could just say on the in-breath. What am I receiving? And how is this needing to be expressed in the world in that moment?
What a beautiful process. I love that. I love this idea of the breath of God. You're breathing in the breath
Yeah.
of God and then giving to the natural world in your breathing out. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that beautiful idea and wisdom. It's beautiful. And I feel like you may have answered my next question, which is, what does inner guidance have to do with quantum physics? That answer was kind of in there, wasn't it? Do you have
I think so. I think so.
anything more to add to that, or do you feel like we covered
Hmm.
that?
Probably there's so much more to add to it, but
Uh,
not in this moment.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Very cool. Yeah, and it does feel like there are more and more people that are going down this path. There's a heightened awareness about all of this, and a new story is
Mhm.
emerging.
Mhm.
Now, how can tuning into our deepest self point the way to co-creating a new world? It's a big question,
Yeah,
and
it's a huge question.
and it's such a good one. It's such a good one, and I think it's one that would be a great way to end this show
Mm,
today.
okay. Let me see what comes today about that. I've been talking about this kind of thing for 30 some years. I realize when I go back and look at old material, things I've written and whatever, it's like, oh, that's good. Oh, I was talking about that then. And there wasn't the same kind of readiness, I think,
Mm,
to hear what this is, to realize that we really aren't victims, that it's really not about what's being done to us, but that we are partners in this effort of creation, in this dance of creation. And that takes, though, a big leap into being responsible, into being aware, into being conscious, and conscious in each moment. And that often feels like, oh, I don't want to do that. I just want to, kick back and relax. Well, gosh, there's such joy in this. There's such an ability to play in all of this, because what we're doing is we're playing in the field of creation. And
mm,
what are we feeling drawn to create? And as long as we're focused on what's wrong, because there's a lot that looks like it's wrong, we're not able to have the clarity and the focus and the inner direction to create, because the energy of creation is a positive, higher vibration frequency. And the focusing on the problems and where even the problems lie, illness is a lower frequency, just looking at it in terms of vibration. So if we if we raise our vibration, if we allow ourselves to be on the positive side of truth, then we get to tap into, there's the ability really to join forces with this positive energy, with this co-creative energy that is coming onto the planet. Because I feel like, from things that I have tuned into, that there's more and more and more of that being made available, because there are more and more people that are seeing things like that and wanting to be part of this dance of creation, not just of the destruction, not just of the entropy. And I look at that in terms of, I use the words entropy and centropy, and entropy being the degradation and centropy being the creation.
Mm.
And where do we want to be? And where do we choose to be? And I know that when I'm sitting in judgment about what's happening, or somebody else, I'm going the entropy route, because it's not looking at, how does love win? Where does love win? Where does love come into this? And I get to see so many possibilities when I'm in that place of love. And the more that people are open to receiving that and living from that place, the more potential for all these new creations that we're seeing happening now.
Fantastic. It's a real paradigm shift in our thinking, isn't it? From that victim mentality to the creator mentality. I read
Totally.
somewhere, and I can't remember where it was, but the article suggested that if even, I think it was like 7% more of our population were to create that shift in the way we look at the world, how we are aware of what's going on, that we would be in a completely different world. It would be a completely different experience. There wouldn't be the same kind of hate and poverty and all this.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I find that
I,
fascinating.
It is. It's more than fascinating, because it's really heartening. Because if
Yeah,
I think
it's
I've got to change
hopeful.
everybody's mind,
Yeah,
and or convince people, oh, that's very tiring, and it's
yeah,
exhausting.
yeah.
If I am responsible for myself and I hold that frequency, it enables other people to come to that without having to impinge, without having to control or dictate, or any of those things which really bring down the frequency.
That's brilliant what you're saying, and so easy to grasp. It's not about trying to change
Mhm.
anybody. It's all about coming from a place of love for yourself,
Yeah.
coming
And
from
and having that conscious
holding it,
breath
having that conscious breath.
over and over and over again. I mean, we have to breathe, or we're not alive. So why not make them a conscious breath, and and then you've got the sense of circulation, which
Yeah,
is what is happening energetically, and of Thanksgiving.
yeah. It's why conversations like this are so important, and I'm so excited that there are more and more people having them. This is
Mhm.
becoming, like even 10 years ago, this would be considered kind of woo-woo, very woo-woo, and you said you started this practice 37 years ago, or this thinking. You must have been like way out there. I feel like
Oh,
we've
I can tell you stories about, yeah, being way out there, but not in a woo-woo sense, because I'm so practical, and and I come from that
right.
highly educated kind of world.
Yeah, but it has been perceived woo-woo. This conversation used to be
Yeah.
perceived woo-woo,
Mhm.
and it's becoming less and less woo-woo. And I think we even need to let go of that word entirely, because it's
Mhm.
it's not. It's profound. There's truth. There's wisdom.
Yeah, I think we have to give that one up, because
Yeah, I
we're
think so.
diminishing
Yeah.
ourselves in that process.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah. So interesting. And I find it very hopeful that for our future, if we are seeing and having more of these kind of conversations, and finding the light instead of fixating on the dark, you know, and that
Yes.
doesn't mean that we
Mhm.
hide from what's
No,
going on in the world.
we can't.
We can't. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of darkness in the world, and there's a lot of light. There's a lot of
Yeah.
light. We need to
It's
shine.
one of the reasons I'm so excited about business. I mean, that why I'm so drawn to working with people who are in business and with businesses in general, because there's that potency and that power that's there. There's their influence and money and all of those things. And when we dance with all of that from a place of what are we creating? What do we want to create? From a place where everything gets taken care of because we're doing that from that place of direction. Wow.
Yeah, magic.
Mhm. Magic, and there's reward. You know, there's people are making more money who are willing to entertain and live in that way than the people that, you know, come down with a heart attack at age 50 because they
Yeah,
weren't.
yeah.
They weren't. Mhm.
Oh, wonderful. Laurie, how would people best get in touch with you if they wanted to work with you or do that quiz? I know we're going to put the actual information in
Okay.
the show notes, but why don't we give this an opportunity to
Sure, sure,
check it
sure.
out?
So the Baca Institute is BACA and then institute.com. And that's a place where, you know, kind of everything that I'm about is housed. It's also where you can have a free consultation with me. And it's an opportunity to have a 30-minute time to look at, yes, maybe working with me, but it's also more about what's your right next step?
Mm.
You know, what really fits you? What is yours there to take into this next moment? And then there's, you know, there's all the kind of different programs that I have, and
Yeah,
ways of coming to work with me.
wonderful. Great. Laurie, thank you so much. I always get so much value of our time together and insights and beautiful things to reflect on. And you've shared a lot again. You delivered. You delivered. So
Oh,
thank
shoot.
there was never a moment of doubt. Wonderful and joyful journeyer. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and got some value out of it too. And I encourage you to check out Laurie's website, the bacainstitute.com. And at the very least, do that little quiz. It takes not even 3 minutes, and you'll get some really great insights on your style. So it's very cool. All right. And with that,
Thank you, Anita. I just have to say that I'm going to interrupt you for a quick second to thank you for such an amazing conversation.
awesome. Well, I have a feeling there'll be more. So they might be more. Well, there'll definitely be more between you and me,
Yeah.
and maybe future opportunities for us to have you back on the show. And I think that will actually happen because you're doing so much. I feel like we barely scratched the surface on the stuff that you could talk
Mm.
about. So we'll have you back for sure. So again, thank you everybody, and we'll catch you next time. Bye for now.